Welcome to Vermontitude, a collaborative effort between Great Eastern Radio, the Brattleboro Reformer, and BCTV to bring you the stories behind the stories on the topics you want to learn more about. Because there's always more, so there'll always be Vermontitude. Hosted by me, Peter Fish Case. Welcome to Vermontitude. New episodes drop every Tuesday and can be found by going to vermontitude.com, reformer.com, or BCTV. We come to you from the studios at the Innovation Box on Flat Street. I'm Peter Fish Case, and each week I cover the topics that are of concern to Windham County and the towns that reside within its borders. Today we are talking with Brattleboro Common Sense organizer Kurt Daims. BCS championed the original bill that now gives 16 to 18-year-olds the right to vote in Brattleboro as well as run for public office. Kurt, welcome to the show.
Hi, Peter.
All right.
Hi, everybody.
All right, let's drill into this thing. Now, this thing started in 2013. Give us a little bit of the history. How did this idea kind of float to the top?
I'll tell you. And thank you for knowing that it started in 2013, because a lot of people talk about the original version from 2019.
Okay.
In 2013 and before, BCS, that's my group, Brattleboro Common Sense, was already concerned about the state of activism, the energy that people had.
Okay.
And I noticed that whenever somebody with pigment showed up at a representative town meeting or somewhere else, the oldsters like me, would get all excited. Oh, there's a young person here,
Right.
The thing is, people really needed young people to show interest in their town. And I had already been thinking, I was in touch with a number of people in other countries. Other countries, they give the vote at an earlier age. And I really started thinking about it. And then Chris Pratt, a local internet journalist, he said that activism would get nowhere until youth were activated.
Okay.
And that stuck with me for a couple of years.
All right.
It seemed the obvious thing to do. So in 2013, we started the campaign.
All right. I will say, in a former life, I was hosting a radio show, and I talked to your daughter, Rio, who was a big part of championing this thing, I think on a high school level. Mm-hmm. She's still activated in this?
No, not in this particular issue.
No. Okay. Let's get into what is the true adult attitude towards youth activism?
That's a heavy question.
Yeah, well, it's a big one. A lot of unpacking to do on that one.
Yeah, adults like to support or like to think they support youth activism, but they make young activists into poster children. Mm-hmm. I can think of a number of events. In 2018, there was a walkout, quote unquote, walkout from the high school when the kids were really going to demand strong action and show how passionate and how much of an emergency they were talking about gun safety.
Right. Yep.
And the administrators at the school got hold of this thing, which is supposed to be kids getting out of school, walking out.
Right.
And just turned it into kids going in front of the school and standing there for a minute while the adoring public applauded and applauded as if these people had discovered the Southern Passage to Antarctica. They were really overboard with the praise. And that's, lowering the bar.
Right.
Another thing was the school board has a youth member.
Yep.
Who can't vote.
Okay.
Who can't vote and whose time is actually limited. Nobody's time is ever limited in like that, but they have a special rule. This person can only talk 10 minutes and her vote doesn't count. But this matter has been in the paper, in the Reformer, twice.
Right.
Last time around, a week ago, big article. Oh my God, youth leadership, youth, what a terrific example. That's really setting the bar awful low.
Okay.
And
so you don't necessarily agree with the praise, or are you?
No, the point is that there's praise for nothing happening yet. And that's lowered the bar.
Okay.
And those other kids at the student walkout, all they did was leave class for 10 minutes.
Right.
They didn't start anything. And people were just about crying and fainting with praise for these kids. Good for them. They walked out and get a breather. But that's not hardly even counts as activism. I
right.
think.
Does it do anything for it? I mean, you could say it doesn't count as activism. I'll push back a little bit. I'm going to say that it did bring, at least within the moment, the attention to the issue that they were trying to bring attention to.
Yeah.
No?
Yeah.
Yeah. Fair.
Compare it though to what attention they might have got if they had done what they wanted to at first, instead of getting inhibited by the administration.
All right. Let's get into this thing.
Oh, wait,
now.
one more example.
Sure.
In 2018, later that year, Rio, and
your daughter,
my daughter, she did you remember the disruption of the heifer stroll parade?
I do.
I mean, the whole state remembers that.
Yep.
We got loads of praise.
Yep.
And we congratulated ourselves and patted ourselves on the back, and BCS and Rio did this great thing and so forth. And then a couple months later, we realized, and we looked through all the correspondence we got, not one person actually said to proceed with what the proposals were.
Okay.
Helping farmers and declaring an emergency. Everybody said, hooray for youth, but nobody said, do what the youth are demanding.
Interesting.
So it's, they like children to show up, but they don't want to do what children are saying.
It's like a Twitter post. It's there for a second, then it's gone.
Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting. All right. So here I'm gonna push back for a second.
Push back.
Right? As much as I like the idea of a 16, 17-year-old, 18 you can vote anyway. So let's just deal with the 16 and 17-year-olds. I like the idea that they're able to have some say in their community and who gets elected to office. I like all that. The running for public office piece of this, and I think that as you just said and stated, the school board member has a kid who can represent the school but can't have a vote, and I don't think that that's right either. I don't think that you limit their time either. I think that if you're going to commit to it, you commit to it like this commits to it. All right. But when we get into things like collective bargaining agreements, union contracts, and things like that, is there a 16-year-old that's really capable of making that decision? This is my pushback.
No, I think that you'll find the ones who get involved, the people who vote among youth, are going to be the right kind of kids.
I would hope so. I would hope so. I mean, again, having just spoken with a few kids, much like Rio, smart, critical thinkers, I'm comfortable with them. But there are kids like I put into my basket when I was 15 or 16 years old, not whip smart back then.
Well, compare if you can remember when you were a kid. Were there other activists, more active, socially engaged kids, your peers? Okay.
There were.
Those would be the ones that would vote and join the select board and the RTM.
You would hope.
You'd hope.
Right. I mean, but that doesn't necessarily. But if you open it up to one, you open it up to all. Yeah. And then again, my pushback is that somebody like me, I'll be honest with you, if this was presented to me at age 16, I would run just because I thought it was funny. All right. Just because I thought I could run, and I was fairly popular, which means I could actually win. Now I'm in this position where I'm 20% of a voting body of a town. And I'm sorry to tell you, that's where, for me, just speaking on my behalf as a 16-year-old male adolescent, that's where the rubber removes from the road.
Yeah, I think if a goofy kid wants to just run for the sake of it, the people are not going to vote for that person. He or she won't get elected. Right.
But if you are in a small town, again, this is me I'm going to stop pushing back on a second. If you're in a small town where the voting body has now suddenly doubled because kids 16, 17 can vote, could be a little bit of a game changer.
Oh, you
get a little tense.
You think all the kids are going to vote just because a kid is a kid?
Why not? No? Is that silly? Is that silly to think that?
I got some more respect for these young people.
Okay.
And not that many of them.
All right.
And not that many, Peter. There's just going to be, I got the number somewhere. Theoretically, it might be 100 kids or so.
Really?
Yeah.
That few?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So, and again, so we are talking about the rights for 16 and 17-year-olds. Again, at 18, you can vote anyway. At 18, I think you can run for public office. What does happen in the sense of like, well, I can speak as a select board member. We went through all the union contracts and everything like that. I think can a 16-year-old sign off on these contracts?
Yeah. It's been determined. I mean, that wasn't even an issue in 2015. The town attorney thought it was fine.
Okay.
He had other gripes.
Yep.
And then it came up again in 2019. Mm-hmm. It's fine. The Legislative Council had no complaints on that account. As a matter of fact, the Legislative Council was the one that first agreed with me about putting the membership on the select board in the legislation.
Okay.
We hadn't planned to do it yet. We looked at it in 2013 and 2014 and 2018 and found that students were much more excited about membership on the school board.
Yeah.
And they took that out. The legislature took that out because of conflicts with Act 46.
Okay.
But sort of, I guess, you talk to Emily about it.
Yeah.
They put that, they wanted to go ahead with the select board membership for other reasons, maybe to compensate for the lack of the school board.
All right. Well, since you brought her up, Kurt just mentioned Emily Kornheiser, who's one of our representatives, Tristan Tolino, another one, and Molly Burke. Mm-hmm. Am I correct? Are these the three people that kind of pushed this bill through?
Mostly Emily.
Mostly Emily. Okay. And have you been involved in any of this?
Yeah.
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 All right.
We talked quite a bit.
Yeah.
Not so much recently because it's the legislation's been settled since 2019. Mm-hmm. I'm not 2019, since 2022 and before.
Okay.
So that version that was voted and vetoed in 2019 had the select board in there, the select board membership. It still does.
Okay. So it's my understanding. So Governor Scott vetoed it. Mm-hmm. They went back. They went back to the gridiron, if you will, to try to do that. And did I read this correctly? This thing passed by one vote. They overrode the veto by one vote.
Mm-hmm. In the lower house, I think, and in the Senate, it was dead even.
Okay.
On 20 to 60 or whatever.
Yeah. So close. Now, was that a nail biter for you? I mean, how bad did you want this?
Well, BC has been working on it since 2013, so
10 years ago.
We would like to get it done.
Yeah.
And Peter, there's so many screw-ups, ups and downs.
Yeah.
So we wanted it pretty bad. It got messed up in 2014 because of a tainted election, and people really didn't understand. The select board was really off. Anyway,
that's fine.
They were really off the wall in 2015, and they screwed up the election. Then in 2018 and 19, we did everything by the book to get it onto the electoral, the national election time.
Yeah.
But there was another screw up in town, so it missed that election, and it came to the following March. And then anyway, it was. It should have been in 2018. On the national election, which got a better turnout, and it would have come in before the interference with Act 46.
Okay.
So it would have been fully enacted. The thing that people actually wanted, and especially the students wanted, would have been in gear before Act 46. And it was no fault of Rio or BCS that didn't happen.
So this thing was brought to a vote before the Brattleboro people. They seem to overwhelmingly want to support this thing. Mm-hmm. So why all the pushback, do you think?
Well, which pushback?
From Governor Scott. Is it just him thinking, I don't...
That was a surprise to me because we went to see him in 2020. And he was very much excited about it.
Okay.
Because it addresses one of his main issues, which is... the youth drain out of the state. Mm-hmm. He has a little plaque, a little number thing on his office door, the number of people who are theoretically leaving Vermont that day.
Okay.
So it's a big thing. And he really said, this is good, this is good. And I left that meeting thinking that he was going to do everything he wanted, everything that he could do.
Right.
I think he said something to that effect. He'll do what he could do, but he had no legislative input.
Right.
And so I was surprised when the matter of consistency became, in his mind, a greater issue. So that was too bad.
Yeah.
And we hope to go statewide with this. We're still working on this, just starting
Right.
to go statewide, and we'll ask the governor, hey, you want consistency?
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Okay.
Let's do this. Let's give students a control in what really rules their life, the school, almost perhaps as much as their parents, almost as much as their family life. Let that be consistent across the state. We'll help.
All right.
That's what we'll say.
So if you want to read more about this, we can direct people to your website. I know that there's a lot of information, some links, the actual bill as it was proposed, as it passed, and it's brattleborocommonssense.org.
Yeah, or brmse.org. Brooms.
Okay. All right. Kurt, thanks for jumping on the program with us today.
Thank you, Peter. Bye, everybody.